So check this out. PC Gamer is very upset at the developers for the game Lords of the Fallen, which is like a Soulsborne type of game, for rejecting DEI in a recent investor meeting. They say Lords of the Fallen studio embraces fear of the DEI boogeyman. Spoiler alert, they say boogeyman because in the article they attempt to make the argument that DEI is not ruining gaming. We'll get to that. Rest of the headline says it will not include any social or political agendas in its games. And into the article itself, they say, Lords of the Fallen Studio CI Games says it will not integrate any social or political agendas into its games because doing so, it claims, incurs a high risk of commercial failure. The statement was made during a recent investors chat during which CI Games was asked about its stance on DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in gaming. In response, Global Marketing Director Ryan Hill said the studio prioritizes excellent user experience with compelling thematics and characters created specifically for core and adjacent audiences, and then rolled into what I would call a pretty ill-informed take on the current state of the game industry. So that means it's probably a good take, because this is a gaming journal complaining about it. Let's take a look though. Here's the take. While some video games have recently taken the opportunity to embed social or political agendas within their experiences, it is clear that many players do not appreciate this. And as a result, we have seen a number of high-profile releases underperforming commercially during the last year alone. Our games will always be developed to maximize player enjoyment and commercial success, and as such, we will not be integrating any social or political agencies into these experiences going forward, having observed the high risk this can present. The seething from PC Gamer then begins. They say, Hill didn't explain how exactly he or CI Games defines DEI, which has become shorthand slang for things I don't like among some parts of video game fandom, nor did he offer any examples of games that failed due to their social or political agendas. Concord and Dustborn are commonly held up as examples of such, but the reality is they're just two of literally thousands of games, 19,000 plus new games on Steam alone in 2024, that failed to find an audience over the past year. And in the case of Concord in particular, it arguably just wasn't a great game. We gave it a 45% in our review, and not because we didn't think the cast was white enough. Yeah, so here's the thing, PC Gamer. It doesn't matter how many new games came out this year that didn't find an audience. We're still allowed to take a look at specific games, in this example Concord and Dustborn, and analyze why they failed so much. And yeah, as much as these modern audience corpo types want to try and deny it, DI was definitely a factor. And the other thing, there can be multiple reasons why Concord failed. They're attempting to say simply, it just wasn't a great game. Well, yeah, for multiple reasons. One of those reasons being that nobody liked the character roster. Thought they were all a bunch of lame characters that nobody wanted to play. And attempting to deny that DEI was a factor is insane. It's such a losing position. The literal character roster, one of the most important things for a hero shooter, literally display the character's pronouns in the selection screen. Now, I wonder why they would put pronouns in the character selection menu. Obviously, they were trying to be like, look how inclusive we are, look how diverse and inclusive this character roster is, which is like as DEI as it gets. And these people are in such denial about it. They'll never admit that one of the biggest failures in gaming of all time was a DEI-infected mess. It's really something how these gaming journalists will just try and openly gaslight people over these things. PC Gamer's rage continues and ends right here. They say, he did unfortunately lend credence to the ugly and patently false assertion that DEI is ruining gaming by, well, that's not really clear either. But that almost doesn't matter. As a hot button buzzword among angry reactionary gamers, the DEI boogeyman doesn't need a definition. It just needs to stir up lizard brain emotions on the way to generating views. Hill's comments stand in sharp contrast to those expressed by another Polish studio, Witcher, and Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red. On its diversity and inclusion page, which does in fact define the studio's approach to DEI in detail, CEO Adam Kaczynski says, quote, a diversity of perspectives unlocks creativity and increases innovation, unquote. So PC Gamer is saying that quote defines CD Projekt Red's approach to DEI in detail, but it doesn't even do that. That's just a very blah, blah, blah corpo statement right there. A diversity of perspectives unlocks creativity and increases innovation. Yeah, that single sentence of blah, blah, blah corpo speak really provides great detail right there. Sure, PC Gamer. We can take a look at the diversity and inclusion page from CD Projekt's website, and you can see that sentence was a part of this full paragraph that reads, Our purpose is to create revolutionary role-playing games with memorable stories that inspire gamers. We can only deliver on these goals and promises with an amazing, passionate team whose talents and professional skills reflect the breadth of experience in the world. A diverse and inclusive work environment boosts creativity and innovation, which is exactly what we need in order to push the limits of technology and storytelling. And even that doesn't define their approach to DEI in great detail. Now, for the record, just so no one gets the wrong idea, I'm not defending CD Projekt Red. They've definitely been diving off the DEI deep end, which is something I covered like last week or so. It's particularly amusing because they were actually getting accused of transphobic things for a number of years, and then they started doing this DEI stuff more and more. And it's really interesting how many corporations get accused of things and then suddenly start virtue signaling harder. Activision Blizzard is another great example of this, which is why oftentimes you'll see when they make like a Pride Month tweet, their quote tweets are full of people bringing up their misconduct allegations. Circling back to this PC gamer stuff, my point is I'm not defending CD Projekt Red. I'm simply pointing out that PC Gamer's argument is terrible. Like, what a joke. Things would get even more interesting, however. Over on Twitter, Pirate Nation would say, Lords of the Fallen Studio CI Games will not integrate DI elements in their games, and going over all the stuff that we just read. To which the CEO of CI Games would retweet Pirate Nation saying, exactly, no, we will not. However, in the responses, a top comment says, I'm very glad and relieved to hear this, but if it's so, then I think there is one element of Lords of the Fallen 2023 that you should take a look at. The use of quote-unquote body type A and body type B in the character creation in place of what they actually are, male and female. To which Merrick, the CEO, responds and says, good point, let us look deeper into that. I guess only time will tell if this stuff is just words or if there's actions behind it. And one final note about that, just to clear up any potential confusion. Over on Steam, the developer listed for Lords of the Fallen is Hexworks, while the publisher is CI Games. However, CI Games does actually own Hexworks. Lastly, we'll take a look at this tweet from Madame Savvy that has a rather funny conclusion to it, and you'll see why it's funny in a moment. First, the context. She's talking about this organization, Uki, however you say it. They're a UK-based organization for interactive entertainment, and she says, the president of Xbox retweets the DI pledge. Sounds so lame. Set up by Yuki, which is something I've spoken about prior. You know, I don't think it's Yuki, is it? It's probably Uki. So anyways, set up by Uki, which is something I've spoken about prior. Basically, they are the middle group between government and business and claim to represent the interests of the gaming industry. They also have help with trade. They also have a DEI guy, the same guy whose quote is on the Raise the Game website, and the same quote is on the other workplace website, Martin Tripp Associates. They install C-suite level workers into companies all across media and claim to be headhunting in the video game industry. Sure is quite the connection for a DEI guy. Anyway, it is beneficial for companies to partner with Uki, and you'll see most major ones are there on their list. And here's the funny part. Savvy then says, they've since left Twitter because reasons involving need for echo chambers most likely, and showing a tweet where Uki had said that they're leaving Twitter, and you can now find them over on Blue Sky. Lots of these DI corpos have been running over to Blue Sky. It's been pretty amusing. And so Savvy quote tweets, as she mentioned, the president of Xbox, Sarah Bond, who says, join us in taking the hashtag Raise the Game pledge towards progress in equality, diversity, and inclusion in the games industry. Let's unite as an industry and create a future where we can all grow and thrive together. At Uki, hashtag gaming for everyone. And she posts a write-up from the gaming magazine, gamingmag.com. Wonder how many ESG points they got for that tweet. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the coverage, and if you did, consider liking and or subscribing. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.